this episode of Wines to Find, Sandy and Michelle explore how the wine tasting experience changes over time as a wine is decanted, exposed to oxygen, and allowed to breathe. Let's listen.
Hi, I'm Michelle.
And I'm Sandy.
We're two sisters tasting and reviewing wine with the goal of taking the WTF out of
Wines to Find.
Wines to Find is brought to you by listeners like you. Please consider supporting our podcast and gaining access to bonus content at www.patreon.com/wines to find. That's www.patreon.com/wines to find. Want to score an $80 Napa Cabernet for $25? Wine Spies uncovers incredible wines at unreal prices on Zinfandel, Barolo, Champagne, you name it. Up to 75% off. It's not a club and there's no obligation to buy. They even have a build-a-case option so you can mix and match wines while enjoying free shipping on every purchase. Visit winespies.com/wines to find. You'll get $10 credit to use on your first order. That's winespies.com/wines to find.
Welcome to episode 59 of Wines to Find. Our wines today are a 2016 Beekeeper Monticello Vineyard Zinfandel and a 2009 Revival Cabernet Sauvignon. Our guest today will be joining us in a little while, and he is Agent Noir of Wine Spies, and he selected these wines specifically for us due to our topic. We are talking wine decanting, Sandy.
We sure are, and I'm excited to do so because I want to be able to see if there really is a difference from the first taste that you pour it, which right now it's at 5:30. Then we're going to take another sip at 6, another sip at 6:30, then again at 7. We're going to do it all the way up through 3 hours and be able to describe and identify if there truly is a difference in decanting.
If they open up, right.
Mm-hmm.
So we just did a fun video in which we showed how and why, and talked about why decanting on the video. So you can check that. That's on our IGTV. And we're documenting the whole night, just like Sandy described. So at 5:25, we really poured them in. So they've been, actually it was 5:30 on the nose, and it's 5:37 now. So they've been decanted for exactly 7 minutes. Decanted and poured into wine. So that's about as close as you can get.
It is. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into wine number 1, which is the 2016 Zinfandel. Full disclosure, I have had this wine because I saw it on Wine Spies a few months ago, and I thought it sounded great because it's from that Monticello vineyard, and I knew I liked fruit from that vineyard, so I thought I would get it. I really didn't know a whole lot about the backstory on this, which we'll get into with Agent Noir, but I've had it, and it's good.
And and when he sent the email, he said they're arguably the best producers of Zinfandel in the country. So I have not had it.
Well, let's go ahead and look at this.
It smells yummy.
See, it's right up your wheelhouse with this smell. It's
I'm
raspberry,
a happy lady right now.
Raspberry and chocolate.
But yes, it is very deep. It's bordering on purple. It's got that bluish red. There's no brown red in there. It's all purpley,
it's
lovely.
Sticking tight to the sides of the glass.
And it smells, like we said, just beautiful. A dark fruit, a little bit of cocoa.
Not much tobacco or anything like that.
No. Can we
Ready
taste
to
it?
taste?
Yep. Ooh. It's got some tart to it. And that is pleasant. I enjoy it, but I do think that it needs to open up.
Well, and what I have noticed, and since somebody told me this trick, I have been able to tell. So I'm going to tell you guys the trick. The trick is whenever you take a mouthful, if you feel the wine on the front of your mouth and the back of your mouth, but not on that mid palate, it's more than likely needs to open up, needs to decant. And I don't get anything on the middle of my tongue.
I get it on the middle of my tongue, but the front and the back are definitely prominent. So it's like hot spots, almost.
Yeah.
And so it
needs to round out.
Once it rounds out, you'll be tasting it throughout the whole tongue experience, which that's what you want.
Yeah, I guess people would be going, why? What does it matter? It just ends up heightening the experience, just like serving the wine at a specific temperature in a specific glass. It all is about heightening the experience to me.
And making the experience ideal and tasting it at the ideal temperature and opening just makes it ideal. We're perfectionists.
Do we want to go ahead and taste the second one?
I do. Let's see. Now, this one is 2009 and it's a Cab Sav, so it's going to be older. It's got, I would think it's bolder. It's got some tannin to it.
It's also that dark, deep purple. Not translucent. It also sticking to the glass. It must have some ABV in it. Do you know what vineyard this is from? I think we're going to hear that from Agent Noir too.
Yeah, I was going to let him tell us.
Smells good. Again, it has some of those similar raspberries and cherries, but it doesn't smell as sweet. It doesn't have as much floral notes as the Zinfandel does.
I like it. I went ahead and drank.
You did? You've already drank?
I might even like it better than the Beekeeper. This is very lovely.
It is pretty good.
It's got, and it's right out the gate lovely.
Yeah. So this is going to be interesting. It's got chocolate or something in there too.
So
we need to get our aroma wheel out.
We do. And, no, I was going to say our smells, but I don't think we want to mix them.
Let's get the aroma wheel out. So we can tell everybody how it's changing.
It does have, the first taste, all I got was fruit. The second taste all I got was tannin. So I think that after it opens up, they won't compete with one another. But it does kind of suck your mouth dry, but there is a lot of flavor behind that.
There's a ton of flavor.
All right. So we'll check back in about 30 minutes.
Okay.
So this is taste number 2.
And it is the 6 o'clock tasting.
Okay. And we're starting with the Beekeeper.
Yep. Beekeeper.
It does smell. It has a little bit more aromatics coming off of it.
Still all that good fresh fruit. More blueberries this time, I think. I'm going to go ahead and taste.
Yep. It's definitely more smooth. Definitely starting to smooth out.
Ooh. And raspberries too now. Do you get it?
A little bit.
It seems more flavorful.
There's definitely more flavors bursting on your tongue and it's definitely hitting the middle of my tongue. It's starting to hit the middle of my tongue versus front and back.
Yep. 30 minutes is also about that time where you've gone through dinner and
second glass
of wine is always a little bit better.
And it's maybe not just because it's the second glass.
Exactly.
A bottle's opened up.
And these are just literally 2-3 sips. So it's not that it's our second glass.
Right.
All right. Let's taste look, see, smell this Cab. The look should be the same. The smell, let's see. The smell has not changed for me. Has it changed for you?
The only thing is I feel like I'm getting more earth. And I don't know if earth is the right word, more mineral.
I would go earth.
Oh, but it still tastes good.
It has rounded. It's already like going over my entire tongue.
It's velvety now.
It is. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah,
it has become more velvety.
It's very enjoyable. I can't wait for the next 30 minutes, the hour mark. This has opened up so nicely.
Already. I'm shocked at that 30 minutes as to what a big difference it made. I could tell a larger difference in the Cabernet Sauvignon versus the Zinfandel.
Yeah. Well, that's because of the tannins and
it's just a bigger wine to begin with. So I'm curious. Let's go ahead, and that's a good spot to stop. We will be back here at 6:30.
So here we are. We're exactly an hour after having poured these wines into the decanter, and we're going to roll right into...
This will be the tell-all to me, the hour mark. All right, let's go ahead and taste...
Beekeeper.
Definitely more fruit. A lot more fruit. I'm shocked that there's more fruit. I did not expect it to be going in that direction.
Really?
To have more fruit. Well, it's really a lot of fruit.
And a lot more layers. The finish the finish is lasting longer.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. All right, let's do the Cabernet. The smells have not changed a whole lot for me.
No.
Seems even softer, more velvety.
Yeah. It's becoming more and more round and full, and
so that's interesting. The Zinfandel is the fruits coming out more, so that's more of the taste profile. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Cabernet Sauvignon, it's the texture that is changing so much. And I wonder if it's because it's more tannic, therefore it's changing.
I definitely think that a Zin is a short term. Like if you're going to decant it, you're going to decant for maybe an hour, and then that's about as long as you need. If a Zinfandel or a Cab, because they're so tight in the bottle, that they're going to become more velvety, and the time helps the texture.
So I'm wondering if we're going to be tasting more fruit in another 30 minutes to an hour on the Cab.
Or if it flattens out. Or if it flattens out. The way it
because
tastes.
I'm thinking that Zin is probably going to start flattening out here.
I think the Zin is going to be...
flatten out first.
Right. We've tasted what we taste. Now, what I would expect next time we taste is to perhaps, now that the textures come out of the Cab, is to maybe get some of those notes of fruit.
That's what I was indicating, is now that the texture's there, it's going to get the fruit,
flavor,
which is what happened with the Zinfandel. We automatically got the fruit very quick, and it came up fast.
Right.
So I'm going to be curious to compare the two.
So we'll check back.
You never know what you guys are going to do on your Friday nights. This might be something fun for y'all to do.
It really is kind of fun to do. And mix in some reels and some stuff while you're doing it.
You use the whole scientific method. If you think back, you make your hypothesis.
Yeah.
Get your controls.
So much better than a 5th grade science project.
Oh, yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next time at 7.
That's right. Okay, so we are back. It's been another 30 minutes. And
so a total of an hour and a half. We're going to go ahead and taste the Beekeeper first.
Okay. Still tasting that fruit.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. We have with us right now is Agent Noir from Wine Spies. Welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
We were just saying that at our last 30-minute tasting that the Beekeeper showed more fruit on that hour point, and now at an hour and a half, it is still showing that fruit.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Yeah, those wines are indestructible. They just keep getting better and better as they aerate.
Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and taste wine number 2, Michelle, the Cabernet.
Mm-hmm.
What you think?
So I think it's definitely got some more fruit to it. It's mellowed.
I think it has more tobacco that's showing.
Mm-hmm. There's more flavors coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So now that so at 30 minutes in, we noticed it was becoming softer and rounder. At an hour in, we were describing velvet and more soft. And we suspected that on the hour and a half that this was the point that we were going to get more flavor.
I was anticipating more fruit, but I actually am getting more of the tobacco, which I'm pleased to see the depth of layers that's coming through. It's actually quite exceptional to sit here and go through and identify, because once you take your sips, then you wait, and then you come back, and you can definitely tell a difference.
And I can't wait. So I want to jump right into the descriptions on these from the guy that purchased them, because that's what we're doing, is we're talking directly with the Wine Spies, one of the Wine Spies purchasers. And when we told them the idea for the decanting, they said, well, here's what we would suggest that you do this with. So without further ado, Agent Noir, if you would like to go ahead and tell us why you thought these 2 wines were great to illustrate decanting.
Absolutely. So like I mentioned, the Beekeeper is quite an indestructible red because it's highly extracted and it's made from exceptional high elevation fruit, which really brings forth a lot of tannin that really needs time and oxygen to unwind. So with a Zinfandel made seriously like that, as a Cabernet maker would take Zinfandel and treat it like that, it really takes on a sort of a wound-up coil kind of an intensity to it. And as it breeds, it really relaxes and lets go of a lot more layers. But the intensity of fruit with a Zinfandel is always going to be there just because of the varietal being extremely fruity in character. So it's really fascinating to see Zinfandel aerate like that. That's made seriously, because you're not going to lose the fruit, but you're going to get additional new layers coming on top of it.
That is definitely evident in this beekeeper for sure, and it's the 2016 that we are currently trying. Why did you choose the Revival for this decanting purpose?
I thought that the Revival Cabernet, of all the Cabernets we've seen lately, was the most fascinating one in the way that it's made. It's made with a very unique plan of using each barrel to make a statement. So they do very distinctive punch downs and pump overs in each individual barrel, and then they deconstruct and reconstruct each barrel as the wine ages, even before bottling. So this gives the wine so much oxygen contact that it becomes a lot, it's kind of counterintuitive to say this, but technically speaking, the more you oxygenate a wine while you're making it, the longer it's going to last. So it's going to lose some of the fruit along the way, obviously, because oxygen does that when it's in excess, especially in the winemaking phase. But whatever fruit it retains is going to be a lot more stable than a young wine that has not seen a lot of oxygen. So that's what really intrigued me about the Revival, and thinking that in this decanting experiment, it would become more complex as it aerates, is what my thoughts were, is what we would see in this.
It's definitely, I just took another taste and I got bell pepper. I mean, every time I taste it, I'm getting another layer of flavor. So it's really super impressive to me. And this is a 2009, so it's
getting up there in age, yeah. And it's amazing, the roundness, the smoothness, the depth of character. And I just tasted it too. And you can taste that bell pepper, the tobacco, the fruit is there. This is becoming one of my favorite Cabernets. I mean,
it's really lovely. It's very nice. And only 142 cases were made of this?
Right. It's actually 4 barrels total that were deconstructed and reconstructed during the making of the wine.
What does that mean?
Well, what they do is they take each barrel. So this is complicated, I guess, because, in a traditional way, you use every barrel once. But it is a process where they take every individual barrel as the fermenting juice reacts with new oak in a certain way. When every fermentation is done, then the wine is taken out of the barrel and then pressed again. So what they do is they make the wine first fermented in the barrel, and then they age it in the barrel. But in order to get the grapes out of the barrel, they have to deconstruct it. So they take the berries and the clusters and they stuff them through the bunghole of the barrel into the barrel. And they let the fermentation vessel be the barrel too, because normally in another environment, it would be an open top bins or stainless steel, whatnot. That's, a lot more easier to manage because it's got a huge open top. But to go into each barrel grape by grape and then ferment it in there requires that they take the loops out of the barrel and they take the wood out of the barrel, and then they put the barrel back together and then put the clear juice back in there for aging.
Oh, so that is a true revival. Deconstructed, and then they revive the barrels. So I was thinking the name ends up incorporating what they do with it.
It's very unique, and it's a technique that they kind of invented, I believe. They might have been influenced by some old school winemaker somewhere in the old world that may have done this before, because there's never a first in wine. Everybody's tried everything. Yeah. But to us, this is a first. We never heard any winery do this before. And we thought it added some interesting character to the wine, along with just becoming one with that barrel from the get-go. Because, when it's fruit, it's not fermented. It's a different story to, treat it in a barrel.
Okay, so it goes through the barrel, then they take it out, and then they deconstruct the barrel, reconstruct it back, put the wine back into it for more aging.
Exactly, and the reason they have to deconstruct the barrel is because all the material that goes in it to ferment is actually whole cluster berries with the clusters hanging in there, so it's almost impossible to use any kind of tool to go through that small bunghole of the barrel to take the...
So once they got to clean it
real good.
They've got to get all the good stuff out because that's where the flavor of the wine is. So then they take the barrel apart to get it out to then put it back in there.
Okay,
that is so interesting.
These barrels, I know we had the barrel guy on earlier this past year, or I guess summer of last year, and you just learned so much. And now we're learning about deconstructing and reconstructing barrels.
Is there a video of that process? Do they document it?
I looked for it, couldn't find it. I think they're trying to keep it proprietary. They talked about it. They talk about it quite a bit in their materials, but it is definitely not seen. I'd love to see it with my own eyes too, because understanding it in the first place was difficult. Trying to explain it, I now realize is not that easy. But
well, we got it now.
Yeah, it took a minute, but we got it.
Great.
Very good. Well, is there any other information, any good little tidbits that you would like to share with our audience about either of these wines? We already kind of delved into the whole barrel process with the Revival, which is really a cool, interesting process. But what about Beekeeper?
The Beekeeper is made by two obsessive-minded young wine people. One is actually a member of a family that owns and tends vineyards, and the other gentleman in the Beekeeper project is actually a master sommelier from Los Angeles who got involved in it because he had a passion for making Zinfandel that transcends almost all Zinfandel out there. So, I mean, there's Zinfandel and there's Beekeeper is how we started seeing these wines after we got to know them a little better, because they really do take the grape and what it can do up not just a notch or two. It's just another level that you could attain with Zinfandel. So I really was impressed with that. And when we're selling these for $40 with a huge discount, it's really not that easy a proposal, because we do feature a lot of great, like under $20 Zinfandels that are top values, and they just blow your mind with fruit. But like I mentioned, the layers of complexity in a Beekeeper really take Zinfandel to another league. And that's what I really love about those wines. And that's why I thought that breathing would really bring out their best.
And I think it has. So just to let folks know, tell us what each of these retail at, and then what Wine Spies sold them for, so people can get an understanding of what kind of discount they can get with Wine Spies.
Well, absolutely. So let's start with the Beekeeper, because we're just talking about that. That is a library release for $75 direct from the winery. It's sold out by now. There's not a bottle left anywhere. Neither they nor us have any left. But
I have one in my cellar.
So do I. I actually have a Magnum, which actually ages better than a 750. We'll talk about that if you like. But I like to brag about our great pricing, of course, because it's only $39 for a $75 collectible with huge accolades with it too. It's got 97 points from someone. I mean, it's definitely one of those Zinfandels that has been discovered by the press. And in order to have access to a wine like that at a significant break was quite a turning point in our pursuit of top-notch Zinfandel, actually, because we love the grape, because we're in Sonoma County, and we are surrounded by great Zinfandel here. But Beekeeper really, really took the game up for us for Zinfandel. On the Revival, as far as pricing goes, that's about $140 upon release, that wine, which is, for Napa Valley even standards, that's a steep price. But for the small production, boutique nature of it, the unique making process, the pedigree involved in the vineyards, everything about the wine really rings the $140 in its making, at least just for making side. And then we sold it for $69 a bottle.
That's a steal. That's a steal for that bottle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 2 for 1 when you think about it. It's one is almost free if you add it all up, and then I think that's a great proposal for a wine that'll age really well, even further than a 2009 today. So I really love the idea of getting to collectors who know what they're getting when they get a bargain like that.
So is there anything else, any specials coming up that people need to be looking for? This episode is going to air on February 26th, 27th.
Let me look into the crystal ball. Oh, yes, there is. The winery that we're going to be bringing back that we actually featured before is another Napa wonder called Dana Estates, D-A-N-A. And when you look them up, you see some of their 100 pointers, some of their top-notch single vineyards out there. We're bringing a value wine from them back, relative value, about the same price as the Revival in the same league as that. But they're single vineyards that are highly allocated, that are hugely scored, are usually not available anywhere except through the winery mailing list. But because of the pandemic era and whatnot, and our relationship and our support of this lesser value wine, we will have a small selection of their cherries as well, which are like incredibly difficult to find, along with the main wine that day. So that, to me, the Dana Day, I call it Dana Day, is going to be an exciting one.
Okay, so be looking for Dana Day with Wine Spies, and we definitely are you're gonna have to give us the inside scoop on some insider trading knowledge on how to get it.
Yeah, you have my number. You know where to find me.
Yeah. Very good. Well, we do so much appreciate your time and your information about these two great wines and guiding us and being able to decant these and get the most out of them.
So now it's been a full 2 hours.
Yes.
Since we started the decanting process. So on a Zinfandel, that is going to be plenty of time generally to let a Zin open up and show well. On a Cab, it's entering prime time, but there could be a little bit more reveal if we were to go a little bit longer. But we're going to just stop at the 2 hour mark, and this will be our last tasting that we show folks.
All right, let's go ahead and start off with the Beekeeper.
Okay.
The fruit isn't as bright.
It's not. But it's a more mellow, more like laid back, just settled in.
Scott, it has. It's almost like a little, still has the tang. It's still very, very good, but you can tell the difference.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fruit still happening and a lot of complexity of flavor. I do think that tasting them side by side, the disadvantage for the Zin is you're going to stop your flavor reveal. And for the Cab, for me, it's still going. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I think we're getting more wow factor out of the decanting of the Cab.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and taste the Cab. It's getting even more. I think I even taste some baking spice on the back now.
Mm-hmm. It's just every it really is. I can't wait to review these, to get to the rating part. Like, I'm like, let's just speed this up so I can get to the part where I talk about how much I like it. But there's every time I taste it, there's a new flavor. And so some of that has to do with the decanting process, but some of it also just has to do with the wine itself. And so then we get to talk about our ratings for these. So I'm so excited.
Yeah, let's go ahead and rate Beekeeper.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and go?
Yeah, so I do enjoy it. And you had mentioned how good it was. And then Agent Noir had just really raved about it. So I think my expectations were like so high on it. It's good. It is wonderful even. But again, I think it's a disservice because I'm tasting it next to this Cab that's just blowing my mind. But I would definitely repeat.
Oh, so, yeah. Like I had told Agent Noir, I have a couple bottles that I was able to stash away in my cellar. Mm-hmm. So it's already at a 4.5. I didn't buy a case, so I guess 4.5 because I've bought multiple bottles.
Right. And I would definitely, and we looked online while we were doing this, and like he said, you can't get it. So even if you wanted to buy a case, sorry, just try the next year.
But there's other years.
Right.
And it's good. Yeah. So, and that consistency is there, and that vineyard is good. So,
yeah. So we do recommend it. And so 4.5 at least from each of us on that one.
Definitely.
Good, solid. Now, this Revival, 2009 Revival, and the whole, as he was talking about the deconstructed barrel, that just the whole thing was just blowing my mind.
It's the story that always pulls and draws you in, and then it makes you love it even more.
It does, but I'm just going to straight up say this is one of the best cabs I've had. And I don't know if it's because I've taken a break from cabs too. It's been a minute since I've had a cab, but this is showing so well, and it's everything that I love about a cab.
It's not a big alcohol backed cab.
No, and it's not heavy in your face. It's older, so it's the flavors are laying down, but it's it's dry, but it's not overly dry. It's got the fruit. It's well balanced. So it is literally everything that I love about a cab. It is hitting the spot right. And if I could buy a case, I would.
So is it a 5?
It is a 5. It is like, I don't know, it might be a 5.5.
I agree. It is really a great wine. And I don't know if they still have it at Wine Spies, but I have a feeling they don't.
If they do, call and buy it now.
Sometimes they may. Well, you don't call.
Go online.
Go online. Yeah. It may come back. You never know. But this is definitely a fabulous Cabernet Sauvignon.
And it's $142 retail, but they were selling it for $70, which $69 is a total steal.
And a 2009, usually you don't get older vintages.
At that alone would have just snap it up.
Well, just even the ability to be able to get it at a regular retail place. They don't usually hold them or house them for that long. Usually they sell them and then it's out.
Well, he mentioned that they were dipping into their library. I can't remember which one of them he said. I thought it was the Beekeeper.
I think the Beekeeper dipped into the library.
Okay. And either way, both of these wines are a steal at the Wine Spice price. But even if you had to buy them at the full price for a special occasion or a great, I wouldn't buy a case of Revival at $150. I just, if I were a millionaire, I would, but I'm not. But it's definitely worth revisiting.
Mm-hmm.
And
definitely.
If Wine Spice has it, I would buy whatever they had, like at the good deal.
And you can go to www.winespies.com/Wines Defined and get $10 off of your first purchase.
So that's helpful right there if you do want to buy a couple bottles. So anyways, this has been a great episode. I really did have fun with the decanting. Sandy was, she's on board with the decanting now. I think
I am. I understand now.
And we did do a fun video. If you guys haven't checked it out or haven't seen it.
We got to give them some resources too for decanting.
Yes, but I want to talk about the video that we did with the candle. Ahead. So before we did this, we wanted to make sure we maximized our time and our effort. So we actually did a video in which we showed how and why to decant, and we did a candle and
the old psalm trick
with that. So if you haven't had a chance, check that out. That'll be on our Instagram and on our YouTube. And then the tips and tricks or...
Yes. Go to winefolly.com. They have a great book that illustrates the types of decanters, how long to decant. They even go by varietals. For example, they will tell you Zinfandel, an hour and a half is good for a great showing, or the Cabernet is 2 hours. So you can really get into some nitty gritty by the varietal and what types of decanters. It's just a great resource.
It is. And they did have an article that was published in 2015 that was refreshed, updated in April of 2020. That was how long to decant a wine and answers and tricks. So that can also be found by a simple Google search. And since we've been sharing news articles, that's an article to check out as well.
Yep. Very good.
Okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. And
if you did, if you know somebody who wants to decant, share it.
Yep, absolutely. And we hope you'll join us next time on
Wines Defined.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Wines Defined. For today's show notes, visit us at www.pickagreatwine.com. Follow us on social media for bonus and live content. Instagram at Wines Defined Podcast, Facebook at Wines Defined, and Twitter at Wines Defined. And don't forget to join us next time on Wines Defined.